The current crisis in modern dating is a brutal clash between time and accountability. For decades, a dominant narrative told women to prioritize their career, their independence, and their self-exploration, assuring them that men, specifically successful, high-value men, would simply wait for them to be ready. This assumption was the foundation of the modern dating fantasy, and it is now violently collapsing. The term hitting the wall is a harsh but honest description of this collision. It signifies the point where the biological reality of fertility and the social reality of depreciated market value converge. Women who spent their prime years, 20s and early 30s, assuming their value was static and permanent, are now entering their late 30s and 40s to find that the market has moved on. The men their age, the successful ones they are now finally ready to settle with, are rationally choosing women 5 to 10 years younger. The shock isn't that women are alone. The shock is that their choices have consequences. The system that once gave them the privilege of postponing commitment has now presented the bill. They are successful, independent, and financially capable, but they lack the desired high-value partner because they prioritized independence when the option for commitment was at its peak. The entire issue boils down to timing and supply. They are now demanding peak market commitment when their asset value is declining, a demand the market rationally rejects. The second killer of modern happiness is the paradox of infinite choice. Dating apps convince the average woman that she had limitless options, fundamentally inflating her perception of her own value. This technology destroyed the necessary human component of compromise and contentment. When options were scarce, people built up the partner they chose. Today, they constantly measure their partner against a globally curated standard. This has led to a catastrophic mismatch in the dating market. The data shows that the average woman believes she deserves to date a man who ranks in the top 5% of all men in terms of income, looks, and status. She is applying a standard of selection that is mathematically impossible to sustain. She is not competing for the average man. She is competing fiercely for the hyper-elite few, leading to chronic frustration and loneliness. The high-value men she chases have endless options and, knowing their scarcity, they rationally choose to avoid commitment, especially with women who have high past relationship mileage and high entitlement. When these women fail to secure the top 5%, they enter their later years and rather than acknowledging their unrealistic standards or their previous choices, they pivot to blaming men for being shallow, immature, or intimidated. This transfer of blame is a psychological defense mechanism against admitting personal responsibility for failure. We are analyzing the fallout of a generation raised on a false romantic narrative. If you are ready to understand the cold, rational mechanics of the dating market and how individual choice drives mass outcome, then take a second right now to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Join the Psyche Lens community for more intense, unfiltered truths about accountability and social shifts. The crisis is intensified by the simultaneous collapse of the social shield that traditionally protected women. For decades, men were expected to absorb all emotional labor, forgive all transgressions, and guarantee financial security, the ultimate subsidy of chivalry. Today, men are choosing to rationally withdraw this subsidy. Why? Because the cost no longer justifies the reward. In a world where divorce is easy, and the legal system often penalizes men through child support and asset division, the high risk of commitment outweighs the low-value return of loyalty. Men are adopting a risk-averse strategy. They are hesitant to approach and commit not because of lack of interest, but because of the justified fear of reputation destruction, harassment claims, and financial annihilation, divorce, and alimony. The woman who spent her early years preaching hyper-independence and the message of "I don't need a man" is now finding that men took her seriously. They are choosing to invest their resources and commitment elsewhere. This response is not malicious. It is a rational economic calculation applied to high-stakes relationships. Men are simply demanding parity and accountability. If she wants equal rights and economic freedom, she must also accept equal standards and equal risk management. The sudden lack of deference is perceived by women as oppression, when it is, in fact, the practical application of true equality. The final predictable stage of this collapse is the adoption of a victim mentality. Instead of internalizing the market correction and adjusting their expectations, many women choose to externalize the blame. They become fixated on why the system, men's society, is failing them, rather than acknowledging where their individual choices intersected with biological and economic reality. This victimhood prevents necessary self-correction. While men who faced rejection in their younger years were pressured to self-improve, women hitting the wall are often offered a narrative of external injustice that validates their anger, but freezes their ability to adapt. They are taught that they are flawless and the market is rigged, ensuring they repeat the same patterns of high demand and low reciprocity. The market, however, is providing the ultimate correction. High-value men who face this accountability crisis are increasingly exploring alternative markets, international dating, where their value is recognized and cooperation is prioritized. This is the rational distribution of resources. Money and commitment flow to where they are most appreciated. The man who understands this dynamic wins. He realizes that the core issue is not hatred, but a final, brutal lesson in accountability. The price of endless freedom and limitless options in your prime years is the loss of choice and the loss of high-value commitment in your later years. The wall is simply the point where the consequences of the past become the reality of the present.